I call this January 6, 2026 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Commissioner Charbonneau, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Ms. Clerk, could you please take the roll call?
Roll call for tonight's meeting. Verhey?
Here.
Pemberton?
Here.
Hornsell?
Present.
Hubbard?
Here.
Lauder is excused. Charbonneau?
Here.
And Chair Sullivan.
I'm here.
You have a quorum.
Good to go. Alrighty. Okay, we're going to move on to the next thing is citizens' comments. And normally we have regular citizen comments here on any subject except those items that are scheduled for public hearing. However, for those of you who have received the email from the community development about tonight's meeting, you may have noticed that 2 resolutions on the agenda were listed as public hearing items. That was a mistake. The public hearing for the parking amendment already took place on November 4th, 2025, and the P&Z priority list item is a regular agenda item and does not need to have a public hearing. That said, if anyone came in tonight planning to comment on either resolution, you're welcome to do so during the public period, which I will open now. And any of those who have signed in will be given the first opportunity to speak. Time is limited to 3 minutes, and the total time for this portion is 36 minutes for this agenda item. Ms. Clerk, is there anyone signed in to speak?
There is no one signed in.
Does anybody in the audience like to speak? All right, we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so the next thing we have, moving on to that, is number 5 on your agenda. It says approval of the agenda and consent agenda. I will need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all right. Are there any changes to be made to the agenda or the consent agenda?
No.
No, nothing, okay? All right. Well, with that, if there's no changes to be made, Ms. Clerk, do we have a roll call for the agenda, please?
Voting on the approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Charbonneau?
Yes.
Verhey?
Yes.
Hornsell?
Yes.
Pemberton?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Yes.
And Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
The agenda and consent agenda have been approved, and on the agenda and consent agenda are the approval December 2nd, 2025 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes and the approval of the December 16th, 2025 Planning and Zoning Commission special meeting minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the next item we have is special orders, presentations, and reports. And we don't have any special orders or presentations, but we'll move on to the community development for their administrative report.
All right, thank you, Chair Sullivan. Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome 2026. Don't have a lot today. As you probably know, the appeal hearing for the drive-through was last night, and when they reconvened, they mentioned that I believe it's the January 26th City Council meeting is when they'll reconvene to a vote on that, make their vote or decision final. And so this is just a reminder to you all that you are still in your quasi-judicial role, at least through then. So just keep that in mind. Also, the mayor did call, I heard from the clerk's office today, that second joint work session to discuss the legislative side of cannabis code. And so that will be Monday, January 26th. And so when we get to the end of the meeting, when we talk about upcoming work sessions, maybe we'll talk about that one for a second, just to make sure that we'll have a quorum of the Planning and Zoning Commission there. And I believe those typically start at 5:30, although I've not gotten exact details just yet. And then other than that, we just have a few more resources in our library. If any of you are interested in checking out, we've got a book called The Color of Law, which discusses the intersection of race and zoning law in American history, and a book called Abundance that kind of talks about different wants and needs in society, and how some of our scarcities of our needs, like housing, energy, transportation, are self-imposed and regulatory issues. And so I've not read them, but just kind of reading the summaries, that seems to be what they're about. So had some good referrals for them. So only got one of each, but feel free to check them out with us if you're interested in any of these.
Are they downloadable on Audible?
I don't know. Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking Audible.
I've downloaded Abundance on Audible. I haven't downloaded The Color of Law, but I'm pretty sure it would be available.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay. And that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, then I'll move on to the next thing, which calls for public hearings, but we have no public hearings or resolutions requiring a public hearing for tonight, and what I'll do is move directly into unfinished business. We have one item for consideration that was postponed from November 4th, 2025, at that meeting, in order to discuss an amendment to replace it with a substitute resolution eliminating parking requirements. This resolution is 2025-033. Ms. Clerk, would you please read the title into the record?
Resolution 2025-033 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending City Council amend Seward City Code 15.10.215 parking.
Okay, so as this is a postponement, the motion is still considered on the table, and we don't need a motion or a second for this resolution. Am I correct on that, Ms. Clerk?
That is correct.
Alrighty. Okay, well then, what we'll need to do now is start our discussion and deliberations on that. So I will punt over to Commissioner
Chair
Hornsett.
Sullivan, if I may also, and City Clerk, Deputy City Clerk, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe also a motion that is on the table as well is whether to accept the substitute resolution that was proposed by Commissioner Hornsett to replace the version
Oh,
that...
did I not say that?
I thought you said that.
I thought I said the substitute. If not, that's okay.
Okay, sorry, yeah, I thought you were referring to just the regular resolution was on the table
sorry.
still, but...
Well, either way, we'll do both, okay?
Yeah.
We're good, okay. Alrighty, so what I'll do is, if possible, instead of that, does the administration have anything to add at this point with this? To update?
No, I was just going to point out for public and then any commissioners, if you wanted to do quick looking. So page 20 in the packet would be the first edition of the ordinance, the resolution recommending the parking amendments to City Council. And then page 53 is where the substitute resolution starts out, and it's quite lengthy, but it's due to the fact that Commissioner Hornsett had to address multiple areas within code since the meat of his substitute resolution eliminates parking requirements, and so he had to go through the definitions and clean up some references to parking within the definitions, and then he also had to go into the land uses allowed table and clean up some references to parking there, as well as address the land use of hotels, which is that has been a previous concern for parking in the past, and making the auto commercial zoning district a conditional use permit for hotels. So those are, the substitute resolution starts on page 53, then the bulk of the resolution starts on page 68, where you'll see most of the parking requirements being eliminated, and then page 83 is the land uses allowed section for the CUP requirements. So.
Okay, thank you. So, commissioners, if anybody would like to start, since this is already on the table, anybody have anything that they would like to address to begin with?
And to make sure we're talking about the amendment first? So,
Yeah.
okay.
I have a few amendments to the amendment, if that's how it needs to be presented. So I do have a laydown.
I think we have to amend the motion, and then if there's another amendment, it has to be made separate after that. So I think we have to vote on this amendment, and then you can make an amendment to it once it's been voted on.
So if that the substitute resolution or the amended resolution is been approved, then we're good to go with that, and then
She can
Commissioner
make her
could
amendment
make
to
her amendments to that.
Okay,
Yes.
typically you do pass the motion as amended, but since we have an amendment, I guess we need it.
You have to approve the amended motion and then add, and then you go into yours, I'm guessing is what I understand.
Twice.
Yeah.
Because then you'll have so many things on the table that you're trying to amend,
That's tough. You want to start with the boilerplate that you've approved, and then your amendments to change that stuff. That's what I'm gathering from this. Okay, so what's on the table right now is the amended or the substitute resolution that Commissioner Hornsett has proposed. Do we have anybody have any questions on that, or at this point in time, or any commentary?
I have commentary, if I may speak.
Yes, ma'am.
So, spent a lot of time on this. Parking in Seward is essential infrastructure and not a theoretical planning issue. We have long winters, we have limited transit options, and residents who rely on safe, practical access 24 hours a day, year-round, here in city limits. When parking is reduced or dismissed, the impacts are not evenly shared. People who live within city limits experience these consequences continuously in winter conditions, during emergencies, while working, caring for family, and supporting local businesses. Others who work in Seward but live outside city limits encounter these impacts intermittently or can offset them in ways full-time residents cannot. I'm concerned that decisions driven by broader or external use patterns may unintentionally shift ongoing costs and risks onto people who live here full-time and carry them every day. How are the continuous year-round impacts on Seward residents being measured and prioritized in these parking decisions?
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Anybody else?
Yeah, I guess I'll just say that we spent a lot of time on this, and I had some concerns about monetizing parking and what may happen. We talked about that extensively in some work sessions prior, adding and even another one to that. So I think that all of my concerns have been pretty much brought up, and we've worked through at the work session. So I think we're pretty work session out.
Now, is that for the original amendment or is that the substitute?
Well, we did both of them, and then when this first came up, what was that? Last month or the month before, we pushed it to tonight and then added a work session. And that work session was, I thought, really important to give the public more time and us to look at this specifically, which we did. We had a pretty good turnout for that work session. We had a lot of input, and concerns that I had, I addressed in that, and the public did not seem to be concerned about it.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Danny?
Just that for Commissioner Hubbard, like if you have the amendments that you want to bring up, I feel like you can still discuss the issues that you want to bring up, but that would help inform your decision of if you would vote for the substitute amendment and kind of get an idea of what the commission thinks about those. So you can have that discussion now before
making the actual amendment. Your decision, yeah.
Just a few housekeeping things. On page 68, where we go into the parking title, or part of the title, I just wanted to add some minor concessions on the top two items for single-family and multifamily dwellings, and then just see how you felt about there's a property, or how should I say, a property line setback for parking where you can't have any parking within 5 feet of the lot line, which I can understand for a permanent structure, but I thought for vehicles that could be eliminated. So those are two things, it'll be three that I'll present. And the first one, too, has to do with the size of the lot. It would only apply if it's greater than a 3,000 square foot lot.
So the Old Town lot sizes would be exempt?
Yes. From any,
Okay.
and wouldn't have any parking minimums.
Okay, I see. Okay, and is that on the substitute amendment? Or the substitute, or are you referring to?
Well, that's where I'm a little confused. I'd like to put it in, I'd like to pass the whole thing as a whole, but we vote the amendments down or up or down, but if we have to go, I don't think it can pass as an omnibus, so to speak, all three of them, so
No, certainly not.
we probably have to take them one at a time.
Right, yeah. But I guess my question to you, and weighed in, Ms. Clerk and Community Development, her concerns here, can these be, put into the substitute amendment as quote-unquote housekeeping without fully changing the amendment, provided the original proposal for the substitute amendment is not vastly changed and not objected
Yeah, another way you could look at it is it friendly, and to the motion maker, which would be up to Brennan, I guess, since he made the motions.
Yeah, that's what would be my concern.
So I can lay these down in front of you for now, and you can look at them, otherwise and then we could take them one by one, or decide if they're friendly, if that's, is that.
Yes, what I believe Chair Sullivan, Commissioner Hubbard intends to amend the substitute resolution.
Right.
From what I understand, I believe they're minor and would be able to fit within the substitute resolution.
Okay, that was my question, if that was what you were looking at as opposed to a full-blown change to it.
Right, but then, yeah, it would be up to the commissioners then to vote on whether they want to approve those amendments to the substitute resolution.
Okay. All right.
Do you want me to pass them around? You want to look at them?
Either way, or that'd be fine. We can take a look at those. And
The first two are on page 68, and the last one's on 71. I got it. There's another.
same? Okay.
There's one for Jody, too.
I guess the clerk could use it.
Oh, here, no. You can't do it more than I need.
So what we can do is you looked at it, very briefly. If you want to just, make a recommendation for the substitute resolution, and Jody, is there any specific format that you want that stated in to be inserted in there, or how best do you want to have?
So are we doing this as housekeeping and just adding this to the amendment?
Yeah, and then we would pretty much do it that way, but I would also want to be sure that the original, proposer, Brennan, would be happy with those as we go forward. We can vote on that, he can decide not that he wouldn't want it at all, or otherwise, yeah.
I would say, like, housekeeping's more typos, organizational issues. These are like changes, so you would have to adopt the substitute resolution and then
insert these.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just thought the discussion for Rhonda might have been helpful ahead of time to know where the commission might stand, if that would inform her decision on how she would vote for the substitute resolution. That's why I suggested doing it now, but I think you still should
vote on the substitute
substitute
first. Okay, then we can go from there. So does anybody else have anything at this point? We can go from there? Okay, if that's...
I'm just really bothered by the process. It just seems to me you could make a substitute.
You're adding something to this, so you have to approve the amendment.
The basic
and then,
one first.
You can, like Danny was saying, you can sit here and discuss this, and if you're all seeming like you're all in agreement with this, it's gonna go pretty quickly, and you're not gonna have to discuss it. You can discuss it all right now, and then, because if it's, it's something we can't just add. It's like Danny said, it's not like you misspelled something or
It's larger than an administrative.
You're adding something to the substitution. So you're going to approve the substitute. If you're all in agreement that you like these, then you just approve the substitution, and then you go and make each amendment. I want a motion to amend to add to do amendment number 1. As stated on the paper, and then you can vote for it, and then we have to do it for each separate thing, fortunately, because you're adding 3 separate things to it. You're adding a letter C, you're adding a letter D, you're adding a letter M, or you're striking letter M.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense. When you have to have a baseline to work with, and then you decide, because some people may not agree with all of them, may agree with 1 and 3, but not 2. So that's why you do it individually. So, if anybody has anything else for this, okay?
I just would like to say more about it.
All right.
Because parking in Seward is essential infrastructure. We know that. Not a theoretical planning issue. We have long winters, limited transit options, and a year-round population that depends on reliable access for daily life and safety. When parking is reduced, the real costs fall disappropriately on people who live in Seward full-time. Residents experience these impacts 24/7, while others encounter them intermittently. Other people can offset them by going home and not living here and dealing with it. Planning models from elsewhere don't always translate here, because we have different environment, we have especially with local winter-specific data, like today. What local data is being used to account for the continuous year-round impact on Seward residents? We live in Seward 24/7.
Thank you. Okay, what we'll have to do is go ahead now. If there's no other comments at this point in time, we will go ahead and vote on the substitute resolution. Ms. Clerk, could you give us the call for the vote?
Yes, voting on the substitute resolution 25-033. Charbonneau?
Yes.
Verhey?
Yes.
Pemberton?
No.
Hubbard?
Yes.
Mornstedt?
Yes.
Chair Sullivan?
Yes.
That amendment to resolution 25-033 has been approved. Now you're back to the main motion,
Okay.
and this is where these can be amended
Okay.
this time.
Okay, I got it. Okay, I would like to make a motion to amend
Which page?
add a letter C to the substitute resolution under 1510-215, which states single-family homes on lots greater than 3,000 square feet are required to provide 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. And if I can get a second on that.
I'll second.
Okay. As you discussed before, just briefly summarize what you said before.
Yes, I was just inclined to believe that this would, for some of the single-family units that may be built and on those larger lots, that they could afford to have off-street parking, and that that would just preserve the single-family homes and keep the off-street parking to, or keep off-street parking to a minimum. And then also, do keep in mind that this would cross over to all the different zoning districts as well, if there, no matter where there was a single-family dwelling unit being built, perhaps. And again, the criteria is that it would be only on lots that are greater than 3,000 square feet. So those that are the 30 by 100 lots would not need to fall under this requirement.
Okay, so this right now applies to single-family homes. Okay, yeah, on that one. So, anybody else have any commentary as we're voting on just this First Amendment?
I just want to ask administration on the language for that. If it's like a single-family home across districts, does that work with
Land use table.
our land use law table?
Definition. That
Yeah, is that, I just haven't seen something like that, but I just,
Yeah, so when, across land, in any zoning district, a single-family home, which would be defined in our code as a detached single-family home,
okay.
would then require, by this language, 2 parking spaces.
So that could potentially be urban residential, auto commercial,
Right.
of course, for all the residential areas.
Yeah, and I recognize the fact that if you got enough space there, you can put a couple of parking spaces there. I mean, a developer probably would do that anyway, so, but it's, having it there is helpful in that respect.
I'm fine with it as long as administration is okay with the wording and make sure that it's not going to cause any issues. Just needing a single-family home, and then if it's, I guess we don't have to say across all.
It's just a given.
It's just a given, yeah. As long as that's going to cover everything.
For the wording currently, I don't see any issues. This, of course, will be reviewed by the city attorney before going to city council, so if they flag anything, we'll be able to make those recommendations for city council to change any wording that may have any issues.
Okay.
I like it because single family, I think, has some needs for, obviously, some parking in there too, but it just makes it, gives a little breathing space. Anybody else have anything? Okay, Ms. Clerk, could you vote on this amendment, please? Give us a vote.
Voting on amendment number 1, add a letter C to the substitute resolution under 15.10.215, which states single-family homes on a lot greater than 3,000 square feet as required to provide 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. Hornseth.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Pemberton.
No.
Verhey.
No.
Charbonneau.
Yes.
And Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
And that amendment has been approved.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one.
Yes, I would like to add a letter D to the substitute resolution under, again, 15.10.215, which states duplexes and multifamily dwellings, which should state duplexes and multifamily dwellings are required to provide one parking space per dwelling unit.
I'll second.
Thank you. I felt that this was something to have in there. I think when whatever developer or builder puts in a multifamily dwelling or duplex, I think they would probably provide this a parking spot, one parking spot per dwelling unit anyway. However, and then I also want us to remind us of when we passed the CUP for Phil Zimmerman's fourplex that he was building for a client. That particular unit per current parking rules would have been 8. He would have needed 8 parking spaces, which we know now is probably overkill if we're going to be passing no parking minimums. But this at least would have that particular unit, as an example, have at least one parking space per dwelling unit. And I think, just like I said, by default, most builders would probably abide by this anyway. I don't think it's that threatening to eliminating parking minimums.
I think it would be responsible for a builder or any developer to put something in there so somebody can park their cars. It wouldn't be in their best interest not to have that of some sort. So, anybody else have any comment or concern?
No, I agree with it.
Okay. Ms. Clerk, could you call the vote?
Voting for amendment number 2, add a letter to the substitute, add a letter D to the substitute resolution under 15.10.215, which states duplexes and multifamily dwellings are required to provide one parking space per dwelling unit. Verhey.
Yes.
Pemberton.
No.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Charbonneau.
Yes.
Hornseth.
Yes.
And Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
That amendment has been approved.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah. Okay, amendment number 3, I would like to strike letter M, and that's on page 71. It's the location on property for parking spaces. I am asking just to eliminate that, so therefore there's no side property line that has to be considered. You can park up to the property line if you need a parking spot on your property. And if I can get a second.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I should have waited for a second before I started talking. But anyway, I'd be striking that whole sentence. So if I could have a second to that.
I second.
I don't exactly know why, well, I understand why they would have this for a physical structure, but I didn't really understand why we needed it for a vehicle that could come and go. And I thought, well, maybe rather than 5 feet, do 3 feet, but if the vehicle isn't there permanently, I didn't see any need to have a setback for vehicles that may need a parking spot. So that's why I put it in there, but I would like to hear other opinions from the rest of the dais on that.
We're just really quickly looking at it. I kind of like it being there. Now, I could be wrong. So what I'm thinking about is, so if, we just, for Amendment 1, if you have this single-family home greater than 3,000 and require 2 parking spots, but the only thing I'm worried about is if they require and they are putting it in a setback, are we going to get into trouble somewhere where the setback needs to be, something needs to happen in the setback and now it can't because there's a parking spot that's required to be there? Is there...
Again, it's not a permanent structure, so we're just talking a vehicle that comes and goes. And I'm just thinking with getting the cars off the street and providing parking and maximum use of land, that I don't see why it's such a threat, but.
Is there an instance where it's not an easement, so it could be used for something else?
It's
Just want to make sure that it's not we're not going to allow something to exist in an area that will be needed for something else later, you know what I mean? That's all.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand why it was there in the first place, other than it just patterning the setbacks for a structure.
If this is on the land itself, and there's vehicles in there, and I understand because there are easements in there, there's utility things there, and a lot of times people are on vacation or the rest of it. I think this is my logic as to why they've done that. It's like if the folks in Public Works or electrical or somebody like that needs to get to something, and there is something there, that vehicle or whatever it is that's there, and you can't move it because they're gone, they're going to just plow right through it. I mean, they're entitled to be that area, so that would be my concern.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it.
I mean, it's a hypothetical, and how many,
Yeah,
we can
sure.
hypothetical to death everything under the sun. If it's a permanent building, that's easy, but if it's a vehicle, it's, the what ifs. So, maybe when somebody, they acknowledge, well, if I'm going to put this thing here, I will have to have it moved, or I will just, lose it. But realistically, most people have stuff in different areas that are in these setbacks anyway.
Well, you could also acknowledge that just parking in the right of way or parking in front of your property. I mean, that's pretty much, it's really no different.
Yeah, because realistically, the plow truck or whatever's coming through.
Oh, yeah, and I've seen cars buried because they haven't moved.
Yeah, and that gives more latitude of use of your property, I guess, if you want to talk about that. So, does anybody have?
Yeah, I just thought it was complementary to the previous amendments, since we're asking, to have parking mandates or requirements for the previous areas that I just made amendments for.
Okay. Anybody else have?
Sullivan knows. I'm not sure the exact reasoning for why this is in code, but my understanding, at least for setbacks, are to provide that spacing between property to avoid overcrowding or just that the dense feeling that more of your single-family residential areas prefer having that spacing. And so my guess from a planning perspective would be that this was put in there with the intent to kind of maintain that spacing in a residential area. Now, to Commissioner Hubbard's point, I guess unless people are parking boats and RVs right on the property line, potentially a small passenger vehicle wouldn't get that sense of overcrowding, especially if it's being moved during the day. But yeah, so I just wanted to give you that perspective of why I think it's in there from a planning.
Yeah, aesthetically, it probably is there for that very reason. And I would rather not see properties just loaded up with a bunch of cars on each side of their property line. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to die on the sword over it, but I just noticed it there, and I just thought it was a little off, given what we're doing. So
Yeah, because going with what Courtney was saying, because I've seen where homes or their roofs are slanted in different directions, and the snow comes right in the middle and it plows and it rolls up onto somebody else's house. That's why they keep that separation as well. So
Just do quick research now. I might suggest holding off on this one because it could cause stormwater drainage issues, and then often when this happens, I'd want to check with our building department, because even if zoning allows it, sometimes fire or building code still may restrict it for fire safety and building access. So I would maybe not do this one for right now, and we can
Commissioner Hubbard, did you want to, withdraw this one?
I can withdraw it, yeah.
Okay, so we have two amendments then. Who seconded? You need to agree to it too, sorry.
Yes, I'll agree to that.
So, any other discussion before we move on for that
Yes, really quick. I noticed that Amendment 2, adding a D, there already is a D.
So would that wind up being an E? Or what do we got?
It would be kicked down, it'd be an E.
An E?
So I don't know if we need to do that now, or if you guys just want to change that later.
The administrative aspect?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up, so it's,
housekeeping.
Good
okay.
Good catch. Okay.
Can I add something? Just, I'm trying to think through the ramifications of the amendments, and so just food for thought. So, right, we've have a current parking code. Right now, central business, harbor commercial are exempt from parking minimums. We've swapped it with eliminating parking minimums entirely, and we've added back the exceptions for single-family homes, duplexes, and multifamily dwellings, which would mean that now, in the central business and harbor commercial districts, they would have parking requirements for those uses. So just something to think about if the commission is good with that or would want to keep to the current code of having nothing.
So you're saying exempt those out of, have harbor commercial and central business district exempt from these amendments, essentially?
Yes, that would be a question that I think you should discuss. I just want to make sure you were aware of that ramification.
If it does go across the
That
board,
essentially
yeah.
you'd be eliminating most parking, but you'd be adding parking back into those two zoning districts where it currently does
If
not
there's a
exist.
single-family
Yes,
home.
correct.
Yeah, for the new development of single-family homes or multifamily or duplexes. And remember too, a lot of in the central business district, there are a lot of 3,000 square foot lots. Those would not have to require,
Right.
or not have to put parking
Because
because of
it's
the
in the
wording.
old part of town.
But anything on a lot greater than 3,000 square feet that develops a single-family home or multifamily or duplex moving forward with the substitute resolution and the amendments would have to provide parking in the harbor commercial and central business districts. In every district, every zoning district.
I'm okay with that.
I don't know how many more buildings and stuff like that at this point.
I don't see a problem with it, but I wouldn't be opposed if somebody wanted to add a little bit to take it, to exempt them from that.
Well, yeah, they might have come with it. Yeah. So,
Be up somebody
anybody?
else.
I'll do it. I'd like to make a motion to amend, to add,
Amendment to the amendment, maybe?
to let the new letter C and D to exempt the harbor commercial and central business
There you
district.
go.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I think we discussed it already. Thank you for the
So
catch.
what he's trying to do is just,
Yeah.
clean
makes
it up,
sense.
make
Yeah.
those guys current
Well,
what they
yeah,
are,
it-
and then just keep this other in the other area, the other residential
Yep.
areas. So how does that read?
Well, I don't have the C and D in front of me or where, but we're exempting parking back into the harbor commercial district and the
Yes.
central commercial district?
Yeah, for amendment 1 and 2.
Or,
Yeah, and he's gonna,
There's, what we,
yeah, I got that.
you had, we're amending these now. These are the new C and D.
Okay,
Yeah, so essentially it would be except for
I see.
in the in central business
Yeah,
and
harbor
harbor
commercial.
commercial, single-family homes on lots. So basically just add for except for
yeah.
central business, harbor commercial at the beginning.
Thank you for that clarification. That was one of my questions, is this going to apply overall, all zoning
Parking
districts?
back into the harbor commercial and central commercial district for single family homes
Make a mess of it.
and there. So amending to add letter C and, amendment number 1 and amendment number 2, C and D, to harbor commercial and central commercial district, as discussed.
Exempt them.
Exempt them.
Exempt them,
To
yes.
exempt parking.
Yeah, requirements, just like you did on the 3,000 square foot.
It sounds like you're just protecting the residential areas and leaving the other ones pretty much alone.
We'll go ahead and just call for a vote
I think we're pretty much there, are we?
for the amendment. So, are we done discussing? Okay. Verhey?
Yes.
Morissette,
Yes.
Pemberton,
Nope.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
That amendment has been approved.
Okay, so that's Amendment 1 and Amendment 2, we've got both of those, and, or is that?
Amendment 1,
and
Amendment 2,
2?
we withdrew number 3.
Right.
The amendment to add this recent one, and then now we're back to the main motion.
Okay, is everybody ready to go to the main motion?
Yes.
I am.
All right.
I think we-
All right, can we have a vote on that, please?
Yes.
Can we clarify what you're voting for, Chair?
Yep. And the original motion?
Let me get back up to my thing. We're voting to approve Resolution 2025-033 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending City Council amend Seward City Code 15.10.215 parking as amended
yeah.
with the substitute Resolution 25-033.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we on this now?
We're voting.
Okay,
Pemberton.
we're continuing it.
No.
Charbonneau,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Morissette,
Yes.
Verhey,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
That main motion has been approved.
Okay, I think we're done. All right. No other things on the tables that we got to worry about, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I just double check here. Okay, then I'm going to go into, we finished that one, we'll go into new business now, for the resolutions. So we have, now we're on to new business, we have one resolution, which is 2026-001, recommending City Council approval of Planning and Zoning Commission's priorities for January 26, 2027. Ms. Clerk, would you please read the title into record?
Resolution 2026-001 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, recommending City Council approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission priorities for January 2026 to January 2027.
Okay, I'll need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-001.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Administration, do you have any comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair Sullivan. So the priorities start on page 89 and go through, I believe, page 90. And they're essentially the priorities that we discussed at our work session at the end of December. We just added one priority at the end of page 89 per our discussion. And that additional priority is to continue joint discussions with the City Council regarding potential revisions to regulations for marijuana establishments, and at their direction, submit recommended land use code amendments, which just sounds like that is well on its way with the scheduled joint work session on the 26th. So everything else is as we discussed at our work session.
Okay, anybody have any discussions on that or concerns? I think we've talked about that a lot. I'm real happy we're bringing the marijuana thing back up, and maybe we can put that horse back in the barn and just get it done, Anybody have anything to offer with the resolution, or for the priorities? No, everybody good with it then? If everybody is good to go and we have nothing further to say, Ms. Clerk, could you calling for the vote?
Voting on Resolution 26-001, Pemberton,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Verhey,
Yes.
Charbonneau is excused for this one. Morissette,
Yes.
and Chair Sullivan.
Yes.
That resolution has been approved.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next one, other new business items. And we need to discuss the work session for January 2026, but I think we already are. Is that going to be the joint work session?
No, we will still have our
Regular one? Okay.
regular one.
And,
On the 27th? No, when are we doing?
So our work
we have the
session.
20th,
Excuse
isn't
me,
it?
20th.
Yeah.
Our work session will be as planned on Tuesday, January 20th at 6 p.m. And our thoughts for that one were to do a little mini training. Jamie's been doing some research on possible different mock resolutions we could go through to help understand just processes and amendments. And I think there's been different questions on what commissioners can do. And so, yeah, we'd like to run through something like that. We haven't kind of planned through that completely yet. And then the two kind of main components would be We mentioned in the priorities having a conversation about the mobile medical units in our land use code, and so I'd like to invite the health center in and see if they want to comment, or at least have their information to our office so that we can start that conversation, so that if there is a code change, it can be done in advance of what they want to do this summer with where they want to provide those services. And then we would plan in advance of the joint work session to include the latest draft of the resolution that P&Z had put together on the cannabis code recommendation, so that could be like a little refresher for the commission going into the joint work session the following week.
That'd be great. Commissioners, anybody have any other thoughts about the training? It sounds like it's a pretty good one.
What is this, the Kenai Peninsula Borough Planning Commission report is on the agenda here?
It's at the tail end. It's the one where all of that one sheet at the tail end of the thing. And I was going to ask Danny about that. It's like that's that thing where all the things we send forward to the Kenai Peninsula Borough.
Okay, I was still hoping to see our representative at some point. If we ever get a chance to see what they're doing over there. It'd be very interesting.
Yeah, we can invite her again. We email her before every meeting and.
Oh, okay. Is
Yeah,
she attending the meetings, do you know?
Yeah, I believe so. So if there's something specific that the commission would like to hear from her, I think maybe the specific guidance would be helpful for her to know what you want to hear, because basically she's just giving the updates on which plats have been approved, which ones are, but it sounds like the commission is wanting more, so maybe just giving her
I was just wondering what other business they're doing there as far as peninsula planning. Do they do borough planning and like what we're doing for our communities? Do they also do?
Yeah, we can ask her to report on that if they are doing more discussions other than just plat approvals. Because I'm not sure if she isn't, if the borough does include them on those sort of planning discussions, or if they're just kind of like reviewing plats and approving plats.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that, I guess we can slide directly into that one, though. But the Spring Creek Park replat, it was sent back for revision, so was that sent back to your office? Or how is that handled?
Right, so, and that one, so it was sent back for revisions, and you'll see on the, that spreadsheet, if you go down, I don't have it in front of me actually, sorry, but the commission did review a revised Spring Creek replat, and that was approved, and then also approved by City Council, so now the revised Spring Creek replat.
Oh, there it is, down further.
Yep, it's
Okay,
at the
I
borough
see.
now, so.
I see what you're saying, the revised one, and so it's just still pending. Okay, got it.
Yep.
Good. You're ahead of me. Yes, ma'am.
I was also wondering, I spoke to you about this earlier, Courtney, about the definitions of the things that kind of piqued my interest when I was going through the revised resolution of Brennan's, and I want, specifically the one on parks and getting that definition to include bike paths, and maybe there's some other definitions in there. At what point can we maybe talk about that or look into that?
Yeah, that could be something that the commission could add to a work session discussion. I'm not sure at this point which work session would be best, but we can add it to our list as well, then to bring it up, or.
That's the only one that's in my mind right now. I haven't taken issue with any of the other definitions, but.
Good. We can probably keep them the priorities for that. Knock these other ones out first, and then once we get the heavy lifts out of the way, maybe we can get that going too. Okay. Anybody else have anything for community development on that? No? Okay, well, I'm on to final public comments. We're done with business, and now we're on to citizens' comments, and there's no sign-in for this. Are there any citizens in the audience wishing to speak? Yep. None? You got 5 minutes. Don't think it'll take that long.
No. Otherwise, outside city limits. Had a few things I wanted to bring the attention, maybe we could start talking about this year, now that we've gone over parking. A couple have to do with my building, a couple have to do with just what I see downtown. I spoke with Public Works. They like awnings, building awnings. They wish that everything was covered. and we're in a little bit of a, I can almost ask for an awning permit, but it has to come with the authority of Public Works. I think you guys could come up with a definition for an awning permit so somebody doesn't have to jump between the two. I think the two minds just need to meet and say what these awnings are, where they want them to go, so we have a little bit of standard there. That's one. Another one is, and a couple of these, I don't know, it might not all of them be with you guys, but motor coaches. Have we addressed where we suggest they park? Do we have an area for historic downtown? We see where they park in the harbor. We all know they're down here. So, and if we're suggesting where they park, do we have an area blocked off for that? Or suggested? Another one is, I think now that all these businesses and this development's going on, to address some of the parking, I think we could re-look at some of our ADA spots and address that in mainly historic downtown. Just to make sure we're adequate. We've done a lot of changes. Maybe that's something again to do with Public Works, but Public Works probably wants some info from you guys, I don't know. And then, yeah, another one. Where's the rules on boats, RVs, trailers, sheds, connexes? What are we allowing? Are we allowing them, or are we not? I think we could readdress the rules of what we're doing for downtown. I think if it is a rule, I don't know. I mean, like, are they allowed? Are they not? Is there a rule that we're just not enforcing? I think we could go back and look at that. Maybe some people are for allowing boats off-season, but maybe not during main season, you know. When you allow a 34-foot boat on a residential lot, he doesn't do a perfect job getting it on his lot. He's in. So there's some of that. And then listening tonight a little bit, I'm all for property owners having the most use of their property. The 5-foot setback, you know, and the crew cab F-350 with the long bed's 23 feet long. So 18-foot spot's not really gonna cut it. The other thing I wanted to see, I wish that the rule would have been just a little bit more, one spot for one dwelling unit, so that we just had a simple rule, because essentially a duplex has the same spots as a single family. I just think it would have been cleaner. The other thing I'm not really familiar with is, you know, are garage spaces considered parking spaces? You know, if they're, if we can use the full spot, I don't know. But those are all things that I think that we could address. And then the last one is derelict buildings. Do we have a rule on that? I'm like, do we gotta remove them? How long are we gonna let them stand? What qualifies a derelict building? You know, there's buildings under projects, but some of these are safety hazards for sure. And I think that you guys have got a lot of your heavy lifting out of the way, but pretty soon we're gonna be coming into some of these abandoned buildings being real nuisance problems. I'll say for a while, Oriental Garden was quite the nuisance problem potential. So I've kept the electric on, I've kept the plumbing on, I've kept everything going. If I would have shut those off, I would say it's a derelict building. But I've kept all the services going. So if you're shutting off your services, how long until you're considered a derelict building? I don't know. Maybe we could look at some of that too. So, thanks.
Appreciate it, thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay, well then we will go on for Commission and Administrator comments and response to citizens' comments. So, Courtney, Danny, anything?
Just first, I know it was kind of last minute, but we just found out today, but can I see a show of hands of who knows if they would be available for that January 26th joint work session. So we at least have 4, okay, perfect. Perfect. All right, so yeah, we'll send out more information on that as we get it. Brennan, like, who knows where this will go once it gets to council, but big heavy lift on your part with the parking and a lot of back-end research, so spent a lot of time on it, so regardless of where it goes, so you should be applauded for the work and dedication that you put into it, so thank you for that. Yeah, Happy New Year.
Thank you, Happy New Year. Courtney?
Yeah, thanks everyone for your hard work and yeah, thanks for the questions, John, and there's a few I think that we can answer, and then there's a few that definitely will require a little bit more work, but definitely good to bring up.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Pemberton, any comments?
Nope.
Nope. Commissioner Verhey? Commissioner Alfonso?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks to everybody for working on this as well with me. Government's really slow. Been working on this for like a year, I think, at this point, when we first started talking about it. And I just want to tell the public too, we haven't forgotten about the priorities, and yeah, I just want to say marijuana is on the list as well. I feel like we should mention that it's not forgotten. We're really slow. So yeah, thanks for the public comment.
Yeah, thank you for seconding my motions and amendments and your work on this, Brennan, and the fortitude that we had to keep bringing in the public to make comments, and we'll see how it goes forward. There's more of the heavy lifting coming up with the city and how they're going to manage the parking and the choke points that we've identified, and so we'll see how that plays out this summer. In response to John's comments, I appreciate what he's saying, and I think it does point to the need of a code enforcement officer. I don't particularly like to follow rules myself. I like to do what I want to do with my property, yada, 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 but we're up here doing a lot of work, and we got a lot of stuff in code, and it just gets kind of tossed to the side by a lot of people. They ignore it. So I don't know it would just be nice to kind of get things in play, and it'd all be part of keeping our town beautiful, and yeah, so that we can't be just sitting up here in vain. So I think that's just something maybe the administration needs to look harder at. So other than that, thank you, admin, for your work and putting the packets together, and comments, Commissioner Pemberton, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming, for sure, because you don't have the public input, or you don't have ideas from people, then you're just going to operate in a bubble that you have a lot of times up here. We have our own ideas, but it's the input from other people. Just what you're saying, John, all those different things that you're referring to, I'm like, some of them, like, I've got no clue. You know, I don't even know if it's in our wheelhouse, but it's good to look at, to find out, to be able to go, what azimuth you need to follow. I really want to thank, the clerk's office in particular for putting up with us, with the amended to the substitute to the amended, I have no idea, but keeping us squared away, that's pretty good to go. Admin all the time is always herding these cats through the queue, and the commissioners who are willing to spend their time volunteering to do this, which is huge. It's not easy, because you get blindsided every time you walk in the door. So anyway, well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it, and I will adjourn this meeting at 7:59.